So for this stream, I'm going to be doing some code review in preparation for adding a help menu to the block mining simulation game. This week I do not have any new updates. I have not worked on this at all in the last week or so because I've been working on a new video. And a number of other things. So I'll use this first opportunity of being back looking at this to just kind of review, jog my memory on how things actually work in the code. I also I brought back that reaction icon because last time I thought the views were abnormally low. It went down to 0 for the first time in any stream. So I kind of wonder if not allowing reactions affects it, because it's one more feedback signal that I guess people can't give. So I'm thinking about going for a model where all of the screen drawing instructions are centralized in like one thread, and then when another thread wants to print something, it'll send it to that, like, I guess, display manager thread or something. So stuff like this will be kind of better thought out. This here is some of my code to try and I had to add this to make it a bit more playable. The terminal was lagging a lot, so I found that when I move, if I like shift cells up or down by a bit, that actually did make it substantially faster. It's surprisingly challenging to like actually do column aligned character printing in the terminal. Once you get into like the potentially variable width of Unicode characters, and then like how the width is not consistent, different platforms. On Ubuntu 20, I think the rock took up 1 space, and now it takes up 2. And then also you can enable wide mode, which also changes it. And another thing to account for. And then I guess in GNU Screen, on wide mode, I think it's basically just not supported, and even programs like Vim don't render properly in wide mode on, or I think actually even in like normal mode with certain Unicode characters. So it won't be too exciting today. Just like, this is my process for like before I start on any kind of big refactor. Just start like staring at the code, even though I don't know where to start. Get it all kind of loaded into my mind. I find it once you're away from it for a week, you like, at least I do, completely forget like everything about how it works. Good old brain refresher. Yeah, and I think I'll have the having a separate thread for the I/O stuff will probably work out, because that way I can make it a bit smarter, so it can have like an internal model of what it needs to update. But then if it starts lagging, then it can just allow work to accumulate, and then it'll do more screen prints at once. So basically it effectively just printed a lower frame rate. And then I think what I'm gonna end up doing, probably gonna rename this. I have like really bad naming for this. Character width measurement thread state, I think this. So I think even now I have some race conditions where this code could potentially interfere with some of the other codes, because I have like two different threads that are both printing to the console at the same time. The deadlock issue that I fixed to get the pure raw TTY mode working was to move this stuff in here and then put it in the lock. My computer fan's really spinning up now. I think the bearing's starting to wear out. I can hear it. It's like getting louder. It's not good. yeah, I also want to add support for background color updating. That would allow me to give a bit more depth perception as well. Are you going to render the layer behind as like a background shader? And that annoying reaction icon. I'm pretty sure there's no way I can move that. Yeah, to answer your question, background shader, I'll probably like, not sure exactly what shades I'll use, but I can at least give some information about like whether there's actually something solid in like the next layer, like on the, because it's like a top-down view, so I can, that way as you're moving around, instead of it just a black background, or I think actually it's just it's a default background, so whatever your terminal defaults do, that's what you see. But I'll make it like, I guess, an explicit background, and then if there's like a rock in that area, then I'll make it like a gray color. But of course, it's also depends on, not all terminals support all different colors. I've got to think of a smart way to basically create like a utility function, like a printf, like a version of this that sends prints to like the actual printing thread. But I don't think I want to do it. If I send in like thousands of individual messages, I think that's going to be way too slow. So I'm gonna have to like, this will probably be have to be refactored. Like the whole thing will craft like one message, and then that one message will be the thing that gets printed. There's also a bunch of issues with this code. When I added the signal window change resizing event, I don't know if it's in here, but I ended up just adding a bunch of code that like prints a bunch of spaces just to overwrite whatever might have been there beforehand. Yeah, ideally, some of these are just like debug statements, but ideally these should all be in the same class. This here is the code for, this here is a separate thread that just reads, all it does is read standard in. So it's responsible for taking in the keystrokes, but also as it gets input, it sends it into this ANSI escape sequence parser, and this is it's basically just trying to extract the ANSI escape sequences from the input stream. So there's a bunch of cases for that. So this is for stuff like cursor position reports. This is why, I mean, a terminal is designed to do serial communication. So like everything comes in the same, you know, byte sequence. That's the whole idea of it being serial input. So it means you have to communicate everything like if you do terminal mouse position reports, and those are going to come in via standard in. So it's all just one byte stream of like any characters you press, key ups, key downs, all that stuff has to come in through the standard input. And for now, all I'm just supporting is WASD and stuff like cursor position reports. But I had to make it smart enough to. I found in Tmux when I was trying to like switch windows, it would give me a deadlock because I wasn't doing anything with the special escape sequence that it had. Now that I'm looking at it, this isn't too bad. There's not that many things that are being printed. Oh yeah, I think this is some of that bad code that I added just to get the last version working with the on the screen size change. Let me tell you that is my favorite stream. This is my favorite live stream. Well, thanks. I'm glad you chose this stream to be your favorite stream. Yeah, I'm just doing some code review on. I haven't worked on the block mining simulator at all this week, so just doing some code review to refresh my memory of how it works, and then the next step is going to be to try and refactor some of how the viewport and like display input output works. And this will all be done with the intention of adding better support for something. I guess I'll maybe make it so when you just press H, then a help menu comes up, and it'll come up like right beside. So like almost. So I guess I'm almost building like a terminal. What do you call it? Terminal. Yeah, terminal emulator. I guess I think it's probably, as an exaggeration, I call it terminal emulator. So it's more like, I kind of don't want to build that, but in order to build some basic user interface in the command line, I am going to need some kind of like windowing, some kind of at least like way that in my program I can partition off a part of the screen and then have like a generic way of drawing stuff at that point in the screen. So like I can have like a UI, some UI element, and that UI element just, it draws to whatever it has access to, and it doesn't need to like know globally the global offset position of where it is. And then once I have that, then I'll add the help menu in terms of that. But haven't worked on this at all this week. Did some filming for another video. And of course I added a bunch of like caching and stuff. This concept of like viewport cells and when the viewport cell updates. So like send out the request for something, or like when I get back some data, when I get back the actual block data, I may get back data that says that block is not loaded, so then I have to update the flags on it to re-render the block a different way. And then when that block finally gets initialized and comes back, then I have to update that again. This Viewport cells has been a major source of very difficult to figure out bugs. Actually, I think there's still a bug in there somehow. I think I have some kind of deadlock where some uninitialized blocks just never initialize, but then if I move around a bit more, then it kind of gets them unstuck. I was watching your Regex course, saw you open live stream. Want to tell you that the course is amazing. Oh, thanks. Did you check out my regular expression visualizer? I haven't looked at that in a while. Hope it still works. It's like it's a web page where you can step through a regular expression. It doesn't support all regular expressions, but it supports kind of like a lot of the major ones. It was on my to-do list to like add support for more like what was it, like possessive quantifiers and stuff, but I'll probably never get around to it. Yeah, that regular expression series, I put a lot of work into that, but it never really got many views. I guess some of my audio is not very good, and so they were some of the first few videos I did on the channel. Visualizer is extremely helpful. Helps to see what's actually happening behind the scenes. Yeah, I made it. It was kind of my the whole course. I designed it as like when I was learning regular expressions, how I wish someone would have explained it to me. So, but I think it actually came out a bit maybe too advanced. It's maybe more like it's more appropriate if you want to like write your own regular expression engine. But it's decent. I guess actually the regular expression visualizer page that actually does decent traffic in itself. The YouTube videos don't never seem to pick up at all. Yeah, it's not too interesting tonight, but this is my this is kind of how I like approach some of these a common question people ask is like, how do you get motivated? How do you, how do you approach difficult tasks? I find that even if you just come at it with like not a plan, you just like stare at the code and you make your job just to stare at the code for hours and like space out and just read it and think about it, then it kind of like comes to the top of your mental cache. And then when you go to bed, you'll think about it, and before you know it, you'll be like, hey, I think I'm actually ready to start writing code. I'm learning C++ for 3 years. Can't really make a good application with it. What do you mean by good application? Like an application that works well, or like you can't think of a good thing to write, a good type of good useful program to write? I tried to make something like IDM. IDM. I'm not familiar with that. Internet download manager, which scrape out the web page and put a pop-up on any video, then click that, download the video at any resolution. Honestly, that's actually a challenging problem. Writing web scrapers. That's I guess why the Selenium project exists. Actually, I was using that recently. There's a few times in the past I've actually tried to write like some kind of a web crawler to crawl pages, and originally I tried doing it with like, I tried writing a bot with like what was it, like extensions, and it was just like, it was such an absolute nightmare. And I think I started the project like twice with 2 different techniques to come up with like my own kind of web browser bot, and I just spent so much time trying to make it work that it just never did. And then I guess now there's Selenium, which actually maybe Selenium was even around when I was trying to make my bot and I just didn't know it. But yeah, and especially in C++, I think a task like that would be challenging, especially with the existence of JavaScript now, how everything is like, that makes it even more hard because you can't just load the page. Now you have to like interact with JavaScript and stuff. And of course, web pages don't want you downloading stuff. Versus when it's fully JavaScript page, which has per IP rate limit, obfuscated generated HTML. Yeah, I have I try to keep track of my when I buy stuff off eBay, and I actually have this like little JavaScript function that I wrote that I actually just inject it. I like do inspect element and I just inject it, and unfortunately jQuery is already loaded, so I need to do like a jQuery thing to like extract to like read the page and grab a JSON object, and then from that JSON object I can like actually grab my list of like how much did I pay, where did I buy it, and what's the link and the image and stuff like that. And of course every like few months that I do this, they like refactor the page, so there's like new elements and stuff on the page, and it's quite a pain. Yes, I mean scraping is it's a difficult problem, and like people don't want you doing it, so they make it even more hard. eBay has an official API now you can interact with. Yeah, I probably could learn that, but then I probably have to get like an API key and stuff, and it's really like, it's at the scale where I don't actually use it. I don't actually need this feature that much, but it's enough where like it would be too much work to manually copy and paste the information and parse it. But it's it's maybe like, I'd say 50 lines of jQuery that I wrote a long time ago, and now I just I update it on an as needed basis now and then. Yeah, and that's the other thing, is like some of those APIs, I might go and like write it, and then if I use this thing like 3 times a year, they'll probably change the API and like deprecate it in a year, in like once a year there'll be something I need to change, and then I need to relearn all the API, and everything with software is just always crumbling. Things are always getting upgraded. Everything's always out of date. The bugs never go away. They just get replaced with different bugs. Email receipts could be easier to parse too. I have a solution now. It's good enough for now. Could you give us a way to keep up with the technology and web dev? No, I can't. Well, here's my strategy. I just disconnected from it entirely. I just like all the JavaScript framework wars and stuff. I just like, I think it was around 2014 or so. Here in Waterloo, there used to be a bunch of meetups here. That was like there was a flourishing business networking community, and for a while I was going to all the meetups and stuff around. And I remember there was like a React.js meetup, and then there was one for Ember.js, and I went to that, and the person there like really sold me on Ember.js, and it's kind of like a vibrant community of people doing all these meetups for every single different JavaScript framework. And then I had a consulting gig that they said, oh, we're going to learn, we want you to use Angular. So then I learned this framework, just hopefully to get this contract. And then I didn't get the contract. And I was like, oh, well, it's not a big deal, because I'll use this knowledge eventually. It's, one of the main frameworks people use. And then, of course, these days, I don't even know if people use Angular, but so I learned Angular 1, and then later I found out that Angular 2 completely replaced everything, and there's no transferable knowledge at all. But now we're on like Angular version 36 or something, and all of these different frameworks, like Vue.js and Ember.js, and I think a lot of them too were they started off as like a venture capital funded thing. So the model really only worked like there was VC money being pumped into it. So the frameworks were being actively developed while there was VC money, and then as soon as the VC money turns off and the VCs get impatient, they want to extract money. So then they stop developing the framework, and now it's like full of all these, bugs, and now you need like premium tier support, and then, and then of course there's a small number of corporate clients who are kind of like so bought into the framework that they have to pay for this, and that's where the VCs actually make their money back. But then for like regular devs, it's a total nightmare working on these frameworks. So I just kind of disconnected from the whole thing, and sometime around, I guess I've kind of kept up with React.js. React.js is decent I've used that in a bunch of projects. I pretty much try to avoid the whole NPM ecosystem entirely. And in hindsight, it's kind of been I have a unique career path, but I think all that stuff, you should anticipate that it's like, well, this has been true for the last 10 years, but who knows what's going to happen now that the tech ecosystem is kind of imploded. But just avoid, I historically have avoided the shiny new object syndrome of learning the latest new framework, and just try to focus on things that are more timeless. And I guess around that period too, I ended up teaching at a local college, and that was when I started getting more into embedded stuff. And I would say pretty much all the embedded programming stuff that I learned is still relevant and transferable. But of course, embedded programming, that's almost like a totally different career path. So, but I realized, like, I don't know, it's tough to give advice on it, because over the last 10 years, that's where like a lot of the money, the big, huge paychecks have been in like front end web development. But the ecosystem has been like total disaster. And I know that, again, it keeps changing. I can't keep up with it. I know there was, at least a few years ago, there was Next.js was being like somehow integrated with React, and that was the latest thing. You had to learn Next.js, and then of course there was React hooks, which was like I learned enough about it to know that it kind of solved the problem of like propagating the state flow up and down the tree. I never really got around to using it. But I think even React hooks is like now not really a thing that people use or something. I don't know. So yeah, to answer your question, how to keep up with technology and web dev, I would say just give up. It's impossible. Learn, just unlearn. Yeah, and the thing about all the NPM stuff is, in my opinion, it's the worst designed software that's ever been created in history. Like the quality of code is just so bad that like some of these people writing the compilers for this stuff don't have like formal educations in compilers. So the kinds of like compiler mistakes and stuff you get, and like dependency management problems, and not like there's all these junior developers writing things that should be like done by senior architects, so they end up reinventing stuff. Like dependency management, that's a major thing. And but a lot of these frameworks, like I know NPM has this really weird syntax for specifying dependencies and version ranges and stuff like that. Realistically, I think in the future we should have like the best way to design I think a dependency manager would be with some sophisticated like constraint solving like you have some very generic way to specify constraints in an abstract way, and then that would be, you'd like, the dependency manager would just like be a constraint solver. So we just take your constraints about what package, whatever you need in some like abstract way. But the way most of the modern software works is like it just uses a regex. Nuclear winter, that's what is going to happen. Yeah, that might be good actually, to have like a bit of a kind of pullback, because I think like in JavaScript, there's no new ideas. People are just like there's so much, like everybody wants to make a name for themselves, so they're like, oh, what do I do? I know, write a framework and like market that. So they like write a new language or something. But it's almost like they're writing new languages just to write a new language, or like, you know, just think about some random new syntax that's different than all other syntax, or something like syntax sugar, but it doesn't fundamentally fix the real hard problems, like things like the dependency management. I don't know how many times I've tried, like, I can remember going through like some Hello World React.js tutorials, and that should be like the simplest thing possible. And I remember doing this tutorial for Hello World npm React.js, and the tutorial was published like 10 months ago, and I go through the process of, you know, just copy and paste was on the blog post, and then I get to one error, and it's like, oh, you can't use this anymore. You must be trying to roll back on this type of thing, or like you must be trying to upgrade this kind of project. I can't remember what message it was, but it was like some totally inapplicable message. You know, assuming that this thing that was only created a couple of months ago is now deprecated. So like the way of building this Hello World application did not work anymore at that point. So like that's just insane. Like, and compare that to like C or C++. A C program, like original C programs written in like, you know, 1991, you can still compile them on a modern C compiler. You might have to like add a couple of flags and stuff like that, and you might get some warnings, but for the most part, it's not that difficult to get a you know, a basic Hello World C program from, what is that, like, yeah, 30 years ago. Like a 35-year-old C program will still run today. With JavaScript from 6 months ago, nope. They have not invented the ability to have code that compiles more than 6 months in the future in JavaScript yet. So yeah, that's my rant about all that stuff. But in React 19, they made a compiler. Oh, did they? I mean, I guess all of React would have to have some kind of compiler to compile the JSX into the emitted JavaScript. When I first started writing with React.js, I actually stuck to just the JavaScript. I learned the translation from because it wasn't too hard to map it from the JSX to the JavaScript, because I thought, like, yeah, you know, this will be more compatible. But then eventually I converted them all to JSX and went with that. So it seems like my, or maybe I'm more interesting tonight, but I'm at 7 viewers. Last stream was like super low. It was almost like 1 or 2 for every, for the whole stream. Maybe it was because I disabled reactions. But it's annoying, because even right now, you guys can see what I see with the, I guess I can't go over there, but this comment right here, I can't read the last word on that, and there's no way to move the heart. Such weird, why would they design it that way? It's awesome to watch my live stream. Oh, thanks. I don't think it's that that interesting, but I'm doing it just for the sake of it as an experiment. I've been doing two a week, 2 live streams a week for the duration of my Kickstarter to raise awareness about my block mining simulation game, and then we'll see once the Kickstarter's done. Then I'll I don't know, take a step back, and maybe I'll drop down to one live stream a week, and then try to focus more time on the higher earning content creation. I've got another long form video coming out this week. How do you plan and work these tasks? Because when I'm trying to do something, my mind gets blown away. Well, I guess for something like this, so what I'm planning right now is I need to like completely refactor how like a lot of these printf statements, instead of like just directly printing, I need them to like basically craft like a message and then send that hopefully one big message packet to a thread, and then that thread is going to print more, fast and intelligently. And there's just a lot of stuff I have to keep in my mind. So right now I have not worked on this project at all in a week, so I kind of forget everything. And what I'm, this doesn't accomplish very much, but what I'm doing today is I just like, force myself to like stare at the code and just like space out a bit and think like, why did I write that? And then just, kind of think about what should I search for. So the viewport, I'm like just looking at all the variables named viewport. What are they doing? Like how many of them? And if you're looking at like code that you haven't written, like if it's something your coworker wrote, then sometimes it's just about like start by enumerating and building up a mental model of like how much code there is and what files is that code in. And then eventually after you see it, after you see the code like 5 times, you'll start to build up a mental model of like how much code there is and what's related to what. So I'd say there's probably a process of breaking up things into like, there's the actual doing of work, and then there's the process of just like absorbing the code through osmosis. You just like stare at it for a while. See how many references I have to Viewport. There's all kinds of constraints I got to think about. So there's some of the model here loads some of the game area outside of what's visible. So that way if you move a little bit off camera, then it doesn't like immediately try to like load. And then this here, that's that on-frame dimensions change. That's when the window size changes. This one's same. When the player's inventory is changed, then you need to redraw the inventory area. Yeah, I mean, this is so this is like working with an existing project. If you're building something from scratch, then that's kind of a different task. It really depends on what kind of task it is. The one you mentioned before about like building a web crawler. I mean that the entire task of that could be quite a big project. Like depending on what you're doing with the data. Once you download it, like if you're putting it in a database or something, or saving it in flat files, or because if you have to organize it and do something with it, then that's a whole task in itself. And if you're doing it at scale, you have to think about the efficiency. Sometimes it helps. I mean, if it's a big complicated, if I need to like organize something or kind of build an algorithm, a lot of times I'll actually just start off with a pencil and a sheet of paper. I never used to do that. I think like when I went to university, that actually kind of forced me to use the pencil and paper approach, because I guess just being embedded in that's what we were taught to do in classes. But then I spent so much time doing that it kind of became my kind of like, it was almost like a therapeutic thing to just like take what's in my mind and like write it down the page to kind of get the feedback. It's like an extension of your mind almost. Just take the whatever kind of data structure you imagine, actually draw it out, and then when you draw it out, you can look at it and be like, oh, this doesn't make sense. It's wrong. Whereas if you're just thinking about it in the abstract, maybe you can't catch those flaws. This here is a callback for when a chunk becomes pending. So that's like when the game becomes aware of a chunk in the game that has not loaded yet, and so that just flags that area of the map to be updated with the question marks. think I might make some, I don't know, I'll add like a test thread in this or something. And then I'll it'll basically like break the UI for a while, but then I'll make some almost like stress test or unit test threads that just do nothing but like print some reference pattern. And then once that's kind of perfected, then I'll refactor the existing viewport stuff to use that same method of updating the screen. Then maybe I can get rid of this very verbose, confusing piece of code. Or can I? I don't know. I remember this code was, this whole cell flag system was a significant source of bugs. Maybe I'll be able to mostly avoid changing this code. So much work to do to make this correct. Having to like keep track of player positions that are where I was, so that I need to go back and redraw where the player was and then overwrite that. These whole print functions were also a source of bugs. This here model doesn't quite work, because it meant that if I print a long string of something at one position, it takes the whole string and puts it in like basically caches it, even if it's more than one character. But then that means you can still overwrite characters that are after it. So very, very bad code, very bad design, which is highlights the need for a significant refactor. And then I also had to add a bunch of checks because when I was testing the screen resizing, I was getting crashes because I'd have end of array access violations because I was made the screen so small it would try to print a piece of text and it would go off the available screen that I had provisioned. And this thing also is full of bugs. I don't really have very good code for... it turns out this Unicode character that I was using for the frame, I thought it was like a fairly portable... I thought it was a fairly portable ASCII character, but it turns out it's not. It's like it's another variable width character. So in wide terminal mode, it is twice the width of normal terminal mode. So if I don't detect that, it breaks the UI completely. Oh yeah, and I have also a bunch of like kind of stopgap code. I'm like printing out this empty bit of text because I think it was in wide character mode. It was not. There were characters from like the last printing that were not getting overwritten, so I have to like print this out first. Been using ZED editor for a bit. It's really nice. Should give it a try if you feel up to new editors. I don't know. I'm pretty stuck on Vim. I'll probably I have tried Sublime Text was the cool editor back in the day, and then I tried that for a while. People said it was super good and had lots of extensions, but I didn't quite like it. And there was Atom Editor, which I tried it for a while, and then they got like completely abandoned. It has Vim bindings by default. Yeah, I don't know, but Vim also has Vim by default, and I've tried a few. I mean, I'm also always kind of suspicious of like why are people creating a new editor? If it's a venture capital backed thing, then that really turns me off it, because it's nothing other than some kind of walled garden. They want to like get people to use it, and then you got to start paying for it. And do you know, is it a venture capital backed thing? I'm curious. If it's like some really insane programmer in a basement who wrote it, then I might use it, but I don't know why you get 4 viewers and a boy barking like a dog gets a couple hundred thousands. Yeah, I mean it's all I guess my concurrent went up to 9, but I guess it's all part of the algorithm. I had more viewers when I first started live streaming. I had like maybe about 40, and then it kind of like it slowly plateaued and went down. I guess probably because the first couple live streams, people wanted to know like whenever I click on someone's live stream, I'm just like, what is this person like in person? Because you can't really tell that from a video when it's scripted and edited and stuff. But I mean, it's also like algorithm stuff. Like there's only so many top channels that you can send that many viewers to. So you have to, of course, pick like whatever's getting the most clicks, the most sensational thing. I mean, I could always start barking like a dog too. Maybe that's what the future is all about. It's definitely some small company. Not sure how to check about the details though. What I often do is, I take the name of the company and then I go to Google and I just type in like company name and then raises, and then because usually companies like to brag about their venture capital raises, and oftentimes you'll get a what's that website that always shows venture capital raises? Is it Crunchbase or something like that? Anyway, there's a company that there's a webpage, or AngelList. Yeah, I think it might be AngelList. They have a list of looks like it is venture capital backed. Yeah, I mean, like the thing is, it costs money to build something. Like I'm building this game right here, and and up in the corner I'm begging for money on my Kickstarter because it takes money to build stuff. So I completely understand, but I've just kind of burned enough times on like anything venture capital where it's the exact same formula every single time. Like they start off, they're like, oh, we're just this like open source, altruistic thing. We're building it because we want to make a difference. And then I think the developers originally want to do virtuous things because like, if you're a developer, you have an idea for something. You're like, I want this new amazing editor. It's an amazing idea. So you're like, oh, well, I have to get money. Either, you do a Kickstarter and raise $152, or you go to a venture capital firm and you raise, does it say how much they raised? Do they raise like, 200,000, 1 million? I mean, that's a lot of money. You can write a lot of code with that. But here's, wow, 10 million. That's, okay. That's quite a bit. So that's like, give it like a 2-year runway. So that's about 50 developers for 2 years. So here's like what I predict is the course of it. They're a nice, like while you have $10 million in the bank, you feel pretty great. But the question is like, how are they going to make back 10 million from an editor? It's like Vim is like, imagine if you made Vim and you were selling Vim. Like everyone, like Vim has won. It's like, it's the most successful thing you could have. But imagine trying to sell Vim if it was like you're getting money for it. Like that'd be challenging to make $10 million selling Vim, I think. But the question is, so these people think they're going to make this money, 10 million at least, back from this app or this new editor. So the question is, what's the business model? And I think usually the developers have good ideas in mind, but then here's what'll happen after 2 years. Like probably the developers, after 2 years of working on this, they'll start to run out of steam, and maybe there's some kind of revenue model they have going, but then they're not making enough revenue. In 2 years' time, the board of directors, the investors, they have all the equity, and then they say, hey, thanks for building this thing. we're going to replace all you developers who wanted to make a better Vim. We're going to replace you with someone else who will, do our evil bidding, whatever that is. Because we just put $10 million in this thing and we've made back 100,000. So how do we recoup our 10 million or make like $1 billion or something? I mean, given the current trend, my guess is it's probably some AI thing. It's probably got like AI integrations, and there's probably some terms of service thing that you're like signing over rights to all your code or something, or you consent to your code, whatever you put in the editor, being used in this AI training model or something. Is that it? It's AI. Yeah. And the thing is, it might not even end up being evil. What it could be is like, so 10 million, that's what they put into it. They might run this for a couple of years, and then after those years, so it might be just like basically buying data on, does this business model work? So they may run it for a couple of years, and then at the end of those 2 years, they collect all this data and they realize like customer acquisition cost is way too high. Just shut it all down. And then like immediately 1 microsecond after, it's totally abandoned and there's like all these bugs, and then like who's going to want to work on it? Yeah, AI is big right now. A lot of VCs just like they want to get the data. They're like, can we build AI? Like, can we get big growth on this? And then they might be just saying like, if we get like an insane number of users from putting this 10 million in by the end of 2 years, then then we'll do something with it. But if it's just, they might just like, open source it and then consider it like we lost $10 million, but we gained information to not do this again. And they can afford to do that because once in a blue moon, they get 10,000% return. Yep, that's exactly it. And it's probably like Andreessen Horowitz and all those people that are behind it. The same like probably 20 venture capital people. Really insightful. Didn't know about all that investing stuff. Yeah, I guess doing the consulting thing and like interacting with a lot of startups and seeing just how seeing the full up and down cycle of all these things. I mean, some of this crazy venture capital money where they just throw it around and lose stuff really fast. Some of that I think is kind of coming to an end, and that has a lot to do with interest rates not being at 0.5% as they've been for the last decade. So, I mean, I guess a lot of junior devs probably don't really realize it, but a lot of the insane period of like software development and crazy turnover in JavaScript frameworks and stuff, all that is due primarily to the prolonged period of basically zero interest rates. And now that interest rates are going up, all of these business models that are basically just bleeding money, they don't work anymore. So they're going to go away and be replaced by business models that are much more profitable. And I think that may actually be a good thing, because it means we, instead of like reinventing the same JavaScript framework over and over again, we'll maybe do something more productive. Content harvesting, creativity, and insight is expensive. Business makes it look cheap by not rewarding. Yeah, it's content harvesting, and I think at like a venture capital scale, like any of this AI stuff too, a lot of it's just like seeing the data, like knowing how much money does it cost to acquire a customer. Like, is it do you have to spend like $2 on ads to get someone to use this editor, or do you have to spend like $500, or just having that data that allows someone else to some an accountant can just look at it and say like, here's how much it costs to get a customer. Here's how much revenue we can expect from the customer. And then say like, okay, this does not work. And sometimes it's by surprise. It's like, if people really want it, if there's enough people who are excited about AI, then the customer acquisition cost might be super low. And then the data they get is like super insightful. And then they find out like they're harvesting this content, and then they can, then they can sell that content onto whoever, Microsoft or whatever, to improve their AI models. Or maybe they can't. Maybe the data is like useless, but you won't know this information until you actually put $10 million into it and give it a try. Can you run this program? I've run this program, so the exact version of this program in some of my previous streams. It's the block mining simulation game. But I think I'm on a higher note than I was last stream, and I got some stuff got to work on tonight. So I'll probably call it a night for this stream. And it seems like allowing reactions made the viewers go higher. Maybe I'll disable reactions again next stream, and then see if that makes the viewers really low again. Just as an experiment, just to collect the data, just like a venture capitalist would. But anyway, I think my schedule was probably Tuesday night. I'll try to do another stream. So anyway, see you guys then.